We wanted to get back now to the Charlotte area to give some updates on an investigation our Nate Morabito has been working on, and this regards an organization in the community. So this is Heal Charlotte, and this is a group that helps folks who are in need of the community, unhoused folks, and we've done a lot of reporting on different angles, if you will. But Nate is joining us right now in the Live Impact News studio with an update on a situation that you had previously reported on regarding the funding that it was getting from the city, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, Heal Charlotte received $2.25 million through federal taxpayer money that was administered through the city that went to leasing the old Baymont Inn, where several people could live for free and other people would pay kind of subsidized housing. That was open for a year, and after the program ended in April, the city kind of started monitoring that contract and flagged some concerns around record keeping and accounting. That was the initial story that we aired a couple weeks ago. Because what the city has told Heal Charlotte and its founder, Greg Jackson, is for now, you will not be allowed to receive any future funding from the city of Charlotte. That's significant. And you will not be able to unless you address our concerns. And so a few days ago, I received a new kind of letter that the city sent to Heal Charlotte saying, you know, despite what he has told us, Greg Jackson, and what he has told the city, it's not enough. We still have a lot of concerns that you've not addressed. We still have a lot of recommendations that you haven't addressed. We want you to keep working on that, or else you're not going to be able to get additional funding. Now, of course, one of my main jobs here is on the Where's the Money team, right? Government accountability, government watchdog when it comes to money. So once this comes to my attention, I'm keeping my eyes and ears open for other things too. And that's when we became aware of this. And I'm going to show this to you. This is a lawsuit that was filed in 2018. And the lawsuit was filed against a bunch of people, including Heal Charlotte and its founder, Greg Jackson. This lawsuit was filed in 2020, I'm sorry. There was a drowning in 2018. There was a 17-year-old who drowned at a university area condo complex where Heal Charlotte was holding a summer camp. Okay? So this lawsuit's filed in 2020, basically accusing several parties of negligence. This teen essentially died that day. He actually died at the hospital a few days later, but there was no adult, is what the complaint alleges, at the pool when he started drowning, and it took a while for anyone to get there and start helping. The complaint says that Greg Jackson got there about 5 minutes after he was pulled out and started trying to revive him. Here's why this all matters. Eventually, everybody else settled this lawsuit. But Greg Jackson and Heal Charlotte never formally followed the court process to answer the complaint. So what happened is in June 2023, a judge said, you owe more than $900,000 to the family of this teenager. So that's $900,000 in June. In September of that same year, the city council here in Charlotte approved this $2.25 million contract. And our question was, well, was the city doing its due diligence here? Did this come up? Did they flag this? It was in the court file in June. And I just found out a few minutes ago from a city spokesperson they were not aware of this. Council members were not aware that there was this judgment back then. Now we have hindsight, right? So this is where my job, you know, I'm at an advantage to some degree when we look back on things with scrutiny, because we know what has happened since. Record keeping and accounting concerns. This judgment has now grown to more than $1 million. As of today, it's still not paid by Heal Charlotte and Greg Jackson. And I had about a half an hour conversation with Greg yesterday about this. And he says, we're kind of in a situation now where I don't have much money left. The banks have seized some of his money and some of Heal Charlotte's money, more than $100,000. And the time to settle has kind of passed because he's got this judgment. And he told me I very well may have to file for bankruptcy. So if you think about how complex this whole situation is, we're talking about a well-known community organization that has done a lot of good. We've heard a lot of good stories about Heal Charlotte over the years. And my colleagues have told them, right? There was this hotel lease that it entered into. And then there was, after that lease ended, which was also critical this summer, another organization came in, run by Cedric Dean, who's now under federal investigation for healthcare fraud, allegedly targeting the homeless. And a woman and her child were found dead in that motel. And I do know, Greg and I talked about it, they were former clients of his.
Yeah.
And he told me he transitioned over to Cedric Dean's organization, and they passed away. And so what we should demand as a public is that people, especially the most vulnerable people, do not fall through the cracks, right? And when we talked to Luana Mayfield, the council member, a few weeks ago for the original story, that's kind of what she told us. Like, this has really opened the city's eyes, this whole situation, because what was meant to be transitional housing turned out to be a year of housing for people. Some people didn't get out of there. I talked to one woman, Ursula Baker, who, despite what she tells me was her best efforts, couldn't get out of that hotel. She's at a different hotel now. That's not the end goal. And so I think that the big takeaway here, and the city spokesperson just essentially told me this a minute ago, is that there needs to be a bit more oversight and maybe more help and support with these kind of programs, because as Luana told me, taxpayer money is essentially people's lives here. And we're talking about people's lives that we were trying to positively affect. And I'm sure there were some that were positively affected by this. But you just go back and you say, were there red flags? And again, I have hindsight, and so now we're asking those questions. Were you aware of this? We know the answer is no. Why weren't you aware of this? Should we be doing better vetting ahead of time just to address this? Because if we're now finding out that Heal Charlotte may have to file for bankruptcy, was that program ever going to had the potential to be sustainable for beyond a year? You know, there was talk that in the application process, Heal Charlotte said there were some thoughts about trying to keep it open beyond a year. That didn't happen. We started hearing from people that were concerned that they were not going to be able to stay there potentially, or they're going to have to move to a different hotel room or whatever, and then we know what happened over the summer. And so ultimately, it is our responsibility as journalists to ask these questions, because the next time we have an opportunity to do good, we want to limit the risk, right? And this is especially tricky because there's multiple organizations involved. There's city money involved. There's federal money involved. There's accounting involved. You know, this was an unprecedented amount of money for a nonprofit that hadn't received that kind of public money before. And it's something that I try to tell people a lot. Once public dollars get involved, the expectations are much higher and the scrutiny and criticism gets much higher. So it's very complex, but also very important, and we're putting this story together for tonight at 11.
Okay. So I'm just trying to kind of wrap my mind around all of the layers here. The lawsuit is something you just happened to find while looking into other concerns.
Yes, I had already reported
Yeah.
about the reporting. I did not know about this lawsuit until
Wow.
fairly recently.
But it was, I don't want to say an easy search, but you were able to find it with...
Once I became aware of the lawsuit,
Okay.
yes. But, you know, now we have easy access to court records, where in 2023, maybe we didn't have as much
Yeah.
access. You have to go to the courthouse. But we also run background checks all the time. And a lot of times these kind of things will pop up in a background search. But yeah, it's all out there.
Yeah.
It's all, and I, you know, based on what I was communicating with the clerk's office, most of the records were already uploaded roughly a year ago for public viewing in that file. But you can go and look right now and see how much is owed. And there are some that I've just gotten access to, some of these documents. But it's really convoluted, as we talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, these other people that were defendants, they settled, and it's unclear kind of what happened here, too, because Greg Jackson says he didn't know there was the lawsuit, but these court records suggest he did know, and maybe he signed for it. Nonetheless, he didn't follow the proper court procedure, and whether or not he was negligent, the judge still ordered the judgment because of procedural issues there. And again, if you take it back to our money being used for programs, when city leaders voted to give $2.25 million to a nonprofit in our area, they had no clue that that nonprofit owed almost $1 million.
Was there any indication that, the city had ideas of how to improve upon that going forward?
I've been keeping tabs a bit on what the oversight is moving forward. And back in September, the City Council approved some new oversight regulations for its organizations that receive city money. They want to make sure their finances are in order and that they're in good standing. We don't know whether or not Heal Charlotte's finances were in good standing. We don't know that, right? We just know now that there was a judgment against them. But that is something they want to do moving forward. It's, if you look at when that money was coming about, too, this is on the heels of the pandemic. 2023? When did we get out of the pandemic? I don't even remember anymore. It was around
Sounds like
time.
that was kind of just after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had all of these loosening of the grips at the federal level to try to get money out as quickly as possible, right? Through all the loans, that federal loans were going out, the small business grants, and then after the fact, people started saying, wait, we were kind of a little bit too loose with that money. And this may have been an effect of that. A really good idea to try to get money out to nonprofits to help the people they already know that exist. And again, I'm sure there was some success there. But when you have fewer restrictions and controls, there is more ability for things to happen. And ultimately, because we know 2 people died this summer, is why all of us have been paying especially closer attention to what happened at that motel.